Hope you can see my slides. So I'm Bob Tolliday, the Communications Manager at EARA, and we've seen a little bit about websites and some of the other presentations, but I wanted to focus on in detail on the role of websites in raising awareness among the public about the use of animals in research, and why websites form an important part of any plan your own institution should have to increase its communication presence efforts. Um, Kirk was talking a bit earlier about the different activities of EARA, and one of our main roles is as an organization to inform different audiences about the continuing need for and benefits of the humane use of animals in scientific research. And we do that by providing accurate and evidence-based information. Um, you can really sum it up here as a drive for greater openness and transparency. And that's because in some ways there is no other option for us as the biomedical community, because if we don't do it, the groups who have a negative message will fill up that space themselves. Um, now, as part of this openness, websites have a very specific role. If the focus of the media or opponents of animal research falls on your institution, be one of the first places the public might go to look for answers to the questions that they have. So websites are a good way of capturing all the information your institution needs to explain its work with animals, and it can also address different audiences at different levels of detail. So one of the ways we've looked to analyze what's happening out there and to drive better content for websites is our EARA website study. Since 2018, we've produced a series of reports on how transparent is website content about animal research. And the third EARA website study came out last year. It assessed just under 1,000 institutions in the EU that have content about animal research. Either they conduct research themselves or they support the use of research with animals. And we wanted to see do the websites provide adequate information for the general public. And 6 different categories were assessed with good practice highlighted. So that drilling down a little bit further, then these are the 6 key elements of content that EARA has identified, and I'm going to go through each of these in my following slides. So we've got here a recognizable statement on animal research, information on statistics, use of species, images, video, case studies, extensive information. So that's even greater detail on the 3 R's or frequently asked questions. And last but not least, can you find that information? Is it prominent on the website? So starting with recognizable statement, the opening introductory piece of content, it should be a statement of some sort. That should be the thing that is most easily found by the public, and it should acknowledge the use and importance of animals. It may include alternative methods that are used and animal welfare and regulations, but that's extra information you might want to put somewhere else, or you can include in your statement. And it should very importantly link to other parts of content on your website about research using animals. And it should set out in clear terms your institution's commitment to animal research and demonstrate that they have the full support of the institution as a whole, not just say the faculty, the biomedical faculty. And the important word here is recognizable, because we do find often statements on websites which will merely state that animal research is conducted at the institution and they comply with regulations, and it's simply not a proper statement. So I've shown you here a picture from the start of a statement in a Spanish institution, and I wanted to just highlight the words they used here, because I think it in a very short number of words, they've actually summed up a lot of what needs to be said. So, for instance, they say we are convinced that animal experimentation plays a fundamental role in the discovery of the underlying biological mechanisms of disease and in the developing of medical treatments. Without research in animals, we would not have most of the medicines, antibiotics, vaccines, and surgical techniques that are applied nowadays in human and veterinary medicine. So, just moving on to the other elements that I was talking about. When we talk about more information, what we really mean is statistics on the use of animals in your institution. So, this is from the University of Oxford. It sets out how many animals are used, and it will talk about the species as well, and there will be other data on, say, what types of research that was, and the level of severity as well. So it's very important that these are not national figures, that these are your own institution's figures, and it's the sort of information that it's very hard to accuse a university of hiding if it's putting up sort of this sort of detail of information, and it can also preempt the accusations of that you have something to hide. So we have images and video, very important, and obviously you've seen some examples of that in other presentations. They should be an accurate reflection of your facilities and the animals used, and ideally that's imagery of both the animals and researchers, and we would like, that I think that it does more good to show actual procedures and the housing of the animals, and that just to really not create a mystery behind what is happening. So the images, I think we've seen it in some examples before. The images taken by researchers themselves or on a camera and a handheld phone can really reflect the reality very well, and they're simple and inexpensive to produce. They should always come with explanatory captions, and it's important to create an image library where you can allow them to be reused by the media without them having to sort of check with you first. And we would urge that you don't use generic images or blurry backgrounds, as these can often look very staged and not reflective of the reality of a lab. And I just wanted to show this, which is what not to do, and I think is pretty obvious from looking at it, is that it can do more harm than good if you're trying to cover up what you're doing in some way by blurring faces. It goes to the heart of the misconception about animal research, that we are nervous about talking about it. In our experience, institutions are actually more open and they attract less attention from activists. And that's because activists want to find the weakest link. They want to find the people who are not ready to discuss what they do or have that content ready to talk about. Certainly no institution that we have worked with has reversed its policy on openness, website policy on openness. Excuse me. Now with video, we have here a video from a French institution, Biosemia. There's a bit of sound there, so I hope you can hear me over that. But video should be used in the same way as images to show how animals are used at your institution, and they can feature interviews with the researchers, give insights into the research conducted and the actual procedures used. And in fact, they're more effective. I think the one thing is with this video is that these are monkeys. Obviously, that's very controversial, and the footage doesn't hide anything, but it does show the relationship with the animal technician, and it shows that they're not stressed, and of course that would have to come with some explanatory text as well. But it means it's much harder for opponents to point to this footage. They could use this footage just as easily to say it's terrible, but in fact, you know, this is the reality, and this is the if you're explaining as well what the importance of using primates is and why we can't do without using primates in certain types of research, then that's going to be a very powerful message. Now I've actually got here a virtual tour, which is from DPZ, and Suzanne was mentioning it, but I think I can actually play it for you as well. So this is another way of presenting that information. It's a great thing for the casual visitor who wants just a very quick idea of what's happening in your institution. It can be, as you see, can be packed with information, as much information as you want to learn from it. So, you know, that it embeds video and interviews and this sort of thing. So great way to do a very quick explanation for people. So moving on, again, case studies, highlighting the examples of successful research that have used animals somewhere in that process. And again, you get case studies on institution websites, but they might not necessarily highlight the role of the animal. So these are specifically to highlight what species you used, when they were used, at which point in the research. And they should be short, to the point, not technical documents. That's very important. And they should contain the sort of content you would be pleased to see featured in a newspaper article. And in fact, you know, if they're done well, you may find that it can be straight lifted by the media for their use. Now, direct quotes from researchers also, again, very useful to include, give the public's into the insight why the animals were using the animals is necessary. And they should be honest about the severity level of the specific research. If it was one at the higher levels, then explain what was done to alleviate that suffering. Why did it need to go to that level? And what are the results of that? You know, how that helps the results of the research. And again, obviously, don't forget case studies that have used 3R methods. Very important to explain where and when you've been able to reduce or replace or refine the use of animals as well. Then our category, which is about, if you like, the greater detail beyond what, say, most people would maybe want to know, but is there anyway. Easy to understand information on animal welfare or non-technical summaries. Frequently asked questions are a very popular part of a website, and they can get to the heart of the matter very quickly. And of course, other links to other websites where obviously not necessarily every institution is going to use every type of animal, but you can send people on links to other institutions or to EARA or to TVV in Germany to find out more. So just looking very specifically at frequently asked questions, these should be specific to your institution. So asking about the actual work that you do and answers with that in mind, and to ask difficult questions that the public would ask, even questions that aren't particularly technical, but the way that they've been phrased by the public. And you can include hyperlinks in that for more information. And I think Suzanne covered this a little bit before, which is about negative phrasing. So you don't say we don't conduct research on primates, for instance, in your answers, because that's implied criticism somewhere that might do that type of research. So the sort of FAQs can anticipate many of the questions you're likely to receive from the media or from the public, and they are actually a very useful source for yourself when you're trying to very quickly deal with a question or a criticism. So finally, prominence. I think the best way to explain this is to actually play this video, which is from the University of Cambridge, which just shows you how quickly you can click through from the homepage of the university straight to the pages on animal research. It should be possible to reach your institution within 3 clicks, we would say, or fewer even, from the homepage. Even if you have good content, and if it's hard to find, your institution can still be accused of being secretive, or it could be completely missed the information that you really want to give the public. So just looking at, as Kurt was mentioning, our website study, and Monique as well, about the transparency agreement. When we produced our report, we saw that the results reflected that transparency agreements around Europe are embracing the use of website content and delivering it much better than those institutions who are not within transparency agreements. That there is a huge job still to do. I mean, there are, we estimate, more than 300 websites in the EU that don't have a acceptable, recognizable type of statement about research. I just wanted to finish by giving you some practical examples as individuals about what you could do. So to ask your institution, does it have publicly available content? If it doesn't, go to your web communications department, just ask some questions about that. You could point out some examples of good practice from the EARA study. You could suggest perhaps setting up a web content working group. And of course, you can get more guidance from EARA or from your national association. And if there is content on animal research, you can do some checks on that, such as the categories we mentioned in this presentation. You can point out to communications what's not there that's important, and you can look for quick fixes to suggest. So prominence is obviously maybe something that can be improved quite quickly. Offering to take pictures and video, and also check your website, the website of your institution, to see if it comes up with meaningful results for keywords, and do a Google search as well. What's coming up when you put in about your institution and animal research? Is it the positive messages that are coming through? And then, of course, go to social media, tell people about what you do, and join our board campaign, which will be this year in June. It'll be the 5th edition, and it aims to illustrate how allow people to explain what they do to be open about research, and how they communicate, and what good practice they use. You can pick up a lot of tips there about communication. And there's our QR code. Registration for the event is now open, so you can get more information and to fill in a form to register your interest as well. So thank you very much. Are there any questions?